Hello, this is the Progressive Cynic, and in this video I'll be talking about the failure of the Obamacare site to launch. Anyone who followed the news over the past few weeks knows that the Obamacare site's launch was an absolute mess. People were having a hard time signing up, they were timing out of sessions online, and sometimes they simply could not connect. Long story short, it was a mess, and it needs to be improved. Now, this is to be expected in the rollout of any new site because, well, it's a complicated procedure, and with so many moving parts, you expect a few bugs. We saw the same thing happen in the rollout of Medicare Part D, but we also saw that things smoothed themselves out after a couple months, and there's no reason to expect this will not happen for Obamacare. That said, we need to point out three things about Obamacare and its failure. First, Obamacare has not actually failed. It has been a bit rocky to sign up, but parts of Obamacare are working just fine. First of all, if you have health care and you're between the ages of 18 and 25 and on your parents' plan, Obamacare is working for you. You would not have had that had Obamacare not passed. If you have a pre-existing condition and you have health care, well, Obamacare is working for you. If you didn't get cut off on your health care coverage after you reach a lifetime cap, say you have cancer and your treatment is very expensive and you would have blown through a cap had Obamacare not passed, well, Obamacare is working for you. And finally, another example of this is if you, whenever you buy healthcare now, the health insurance company must spend 80% of the money that you give them on health coverage, not administrative costs or money that they give to themselves for ensuring that you have access to some sort of insurance. Well, all of those things are working just fine. So, well, Obamacare is working fairly well right now. Even if the exchanges don't work for a little bit, those are not the crux of the law. And some very important aspects of the law are entirely functional. The second thing we need to point out is that, well, the Obamacare is not a perfect law, but it also has been obstructed and maligned at every turn by these Republicans. The Republicans have done everything in their power to make this law fail, and they've absolutely refused to cooperate with it. As such, a bunch of the blame for Obamacare's failure to launch properly goes on these people. 36 states have refused to set up exchanges under Obamacare and have left a massive amount of work for the federal government. Originally, Obamacare, or at least the website for the federal government, was supposed to be a search engine type site where you go on there, you search for your state's site, and it just links you to that. It wasn't actually intended to be a site where you would be able to buy the healthcare provisions. When the states refused to set up their own exchanges, this left it to the federal government to set up the exchanges in addition to the overarching site. This means that there was a lot more work, and it caused a logjam, and it was hard to implement. Well, if you look at the states which have actually done their jobs and set up the Obamacare exchanges as prescribed in the law, they're working just fine. Probably the best example of this is Kentucky. Now, Kentucky, you may not think of it as a really liberal state, and it's not, but they really got behind Obamacare, and they set up a nice exchange. It's working just fine. They have had no problems, and it's proof positive that if the states actually got on board, the program would start working better. You see similar examples in New York, Massachusetts, California. Basically, the states which actually got on board with the program. Look, this program is not magically going to implement itself, or at least this portion of the program is not going to magically implement itself. The Republicans need to at least get on board and stop obstructing it. And then if it doesn't work, they might have the right to complain a little bit. That said, as things are now, they've done everything in their power to obstruct its implementation, so they have no right to complain when it doesn't work. That's like hog tying a guy and then yelling at him because he can't ride him because he can't run a marathon. It's ridiculous. The third thing that needs to be pointed out is that the Republicans have not thought through what the failure of Obamacare would mean for them. Obamacare is it's an expansion and modification on the current free market system, where people are forced to buy private insurance. Obamacare is intended to use subsidies and incentives in order to force people to buy insurance, and has reformed the market so that more vulnerable people cannot be refused insurance, say if they have cancer already. All in, it stays within the free market confines. If Obamacare fails to launch properly and just falls flat, it means that the only place for us to go in terms of reforming healthcare and improving it is to the left. If Obamacare fails, it simply means that free market is not functioning in healthcare, and we need to move to a more socialized model. It could be nationalized healthcare, it could be single payer, it could be all payer, it could be a few different programs, but all of them are farther to the left than Obamacare. Such, Republicans may be shooting themselves in the foot by trying to kill Obamacare, because if it fails, their policies are proven to be incorrect. I mean, this isn't to say that they're not going to keep grandstanding, and it also doesn't mean that people are going to realize, oh wait, right-wing plan is not working, so that we need to go farther to the left. Sometimes it just causes people to double down and go farther to the right, but we can only hope. In totality, we just need to give this a little time, and we need to ignore the Republicans when they fearmonger and they deride this program as a failure. Currently, the Republicans are grandstanding in the legislature yet again about the failure of Obamacare, and have called hearings where they have grilled Health and Human Services Secretary Sebelius, and they're just trying to make as big a splash as possible. This is to demonize the law, and it's also to raise money. Obamacare is a big money maker for the Republicans because they use it to fundraise off of their crazy base. And we simply need to deny them this. Don't pay attention to them. Don't let them draw you into their insanity. Eventually, a couple months, maybe a year, Obamacare's bugs, or the Obamacare exchange's bugs, will gradually smoothen out, and it will leave the headlines. And then a bunch of people are going to have healthcare who didn't have that already. Until then, just remember, if you're sick, if you know anyone who is sick, or if you have a kid or know someone who is under the age of 26, Obamacare is already working for them. And if you throw out Obamacare because there are a few glitches on the website, these people are going to be the ones who suffer the most. Thank you. This has been The Progressive Cynic. Please follow my blog, theprogressivecynic.com, and follow my YouTube channel.